Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us once again. I'm Drew McQuinn. I'm the mortgage specialist with Royal Bank in Halifax on Almond Street. And I'm here with my partners outside of RBC, CMHC, William Wang. Could you tell me a little bit about what CMHC actually is and what they do?
My name is William, and I am an account representative with CMHC. So CMHC, it stands for Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. Mortgage loan insurance provides default insurance to lenders to protect them against the risk of borrowers defaulting on a mortgage. Now, why would a borrower need to get mortgage loan insurance? Well, mortgage loan insurance does allow borrowers to get into their first home for as low as 5% down payment compared to 20%. Now, this definitely provides an easier path and access to home ownership sooner rather than later. And in some cases, that later could be a couple of years. Let's put it into perspective though. Let's just say if I had a $500,000 home, if I were to put 5% down payment to get into it, it's only a $25,000 down payment. Sounds a lot better than $100,000 for that same home. It really puts into perspective, how easier that access to home ownership is.
I just was curious, where do you see the market in Nova Scotia going over the next year or so?
More so in Nova Scotia, our reports and our research really focuses our projections mainly on Halifax. A couple of highlights from our most recent housing report is that in the absence of new housing supply, we do see home prices are expected to continue to increase between this year and 2024, more so albeit at a slower pace. Now, home sales are expected to decline, as we probably see right now, due to the affordability challenges and really that moderation in the population growth. Halifax, the population has slowed down just a bit in 2021 due to the pandemic-related restrictions. But we do see significant interprovincial migration to really offset the drop in the international migrants. No surprise, though, in the past few years, Halifax's economy has boomed on the back of downturn in the western provinces. But Halifax has gained more migrants than it has lost due to these provinces over the past few years. These are just the highlights from that report. We do have a full version on our website that gives a more comprehensive breakdown of the housing market.
So the market has dropped in the rest of Canada, but it seems to be flattening out for Halifax and Nova Scotia and not pulling back as much. Could you just elaborate a little bit more on that? Are we not being pounded so hard because there's such a low supply?
And like you mentioned, the inventory levels are at historic lows and are dropping faster in Halifax compared to the other regions. Now, if we talk numbers, since the beginning of Q1 of this year, we know a 17% price drop in Halifax since that Q1. Now, just because it has dropped 17% from the peak, it doesn't mean that the affordability question has been solved. We do know as well, interest rates has also went up historically high, as this can pose as another barrier for first-time home buyers. But it's important to know that even though this 17% drop seems significant, it remains high even if we're comparing it to pre-pandemic prices. So in short, yes, we do see the prices drop in Halifax and Nova Scotia, but even though there is this quote-unquote drop, it still remains very elevated in the Atlantic regions.
Yeah, so prices have dropped, affordability is still not there though.
It's not there, no.
Do you see affordability coming back to Nova Scotia, or are we the next Vancouver or maybe even Toronto?
That's tough to say because we do see that the Atlantic regions are actually the leading in the country in terms of population growth. We don't see that slowing down anytime soon. We do have the new immigration targets coming up for the next couple of years, and Halifax is one of the more hotter locations, more so in 2021. So if we talking about affordability, is it going to get better? I can only speak to the more migrants coming in, interprovincial or intra-provincial migration that is going to be happening. So I don't see it going down anytime soon.
Do you have any sense of why it's so hot right now in Nova Scotia? Why is everybody flocking here all of a sudden? What is it about Nova Scotia now that we didn't have 5 years ago?
Opinions aside, we can attribute this movement due to the affordability of Halifax compared to other areas in Canada. Now, some numbers show that Ontario was actually the leading province for interprovincial migration to Halifax for all of 2021. Ontario was a very popular location for newcomers to go to, but it's not really necessarily the fact that they tend to stay there when they can look elsewhere for more affordable arrangements. Coming from Ontario, moving outward, it definitely seems a lot better in terms of prices if we're looking for better arrangements. Also as well, COVID. has changed the workplace environment. People are now able to work from home while also looking towards other places for more affordable living arrangements. But that's not really to say that most migrants that move to Nova Scotia or Halifax specifically is because of work from home arrangements, but it's definitely a factor.
With regards to the website, what kind of information can people find when they go in there?
Yeah, so first off, we're going to talk about a place to call home.ca. It does have calculators for particular programs that we carry out. We do have those various reports, the housing market insights and market rental reports. It gives a lot of great insight into trends and predictions. Most of these are posted periodically. And in addition, do have our housing market information portal where it is accessible to the public. Now, this portal lets you drill down from province to province and even city by city for information such as the rental markets, housing stock, new construction starts, and even vacancy rates. We do have a lot, it just takes a little bit of navigating to find it.
If there's any questions around how to use that, how best to apply it, reach out to somebody like myself at RBC, and we'll be happy to go through it with you and help with your plans and decision making. I really appreciate you coming on today, William. It's a pleasure to chat with you. Looking forward to connecting again with you sometime soon in the future.
Likewise, Drew. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
All the best.